guys, welcome back to my channel. As always, I'm sitting on my bedroom floor. Anyways, today I'm making this video to kind of show you guys the different film cameras I have and yeah, just talk a little bit more about my film photography hobby. Before we get started, I just want to say this is my hobby, you know, so this is not something that I'm a professional at or anything like that. So if I say something that's wrong, you know, you can feel free to correct me in the comments. I am by no way claiming to be an expert. Okay, first things first, I guess we should talk a little bit about cameras themselves. So actually when I started off with film photography, I got the Fujifilm regular disposable camera, and they're maybe 14 bucks a piece. Fujifilm now offers this thing where you can actually pay to ship it into the Fujifilm store or whatever, and then they'll give you prints and digital copies as well for a certain price. I personally, I've tried that service once. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of it, only because I like to get my negatives back, and I like to keep my negatives. If you don't care about your negatives, which is essentially the film strips that your actual photo is being taken on, then by all means, there's nothing wrong with using Fujifilm's, I think it's called Print Life service. I'm not too sure, but I don't know, put a picture here. I'll put a link below as well if you guys ever want to try it out. So yeah, back to this whole camera talk. I decided, I was like, okay, wait, that's actually such a waste of plastic, because they say they can reuse the cartridges, but I don't know if that's actually 100% accurate or not. And so I decided to get the Lomography simple use camera. It's reloadable. I would highly recommend that you go online and actually find a tutorial on how to reload this, because this does not have auto reload. So it has a little flicky thing here that you flick open underneath, and then you wind it to reload it all the way. I actually stopped using this because something was wrong with this camera, and you know, it's plastic, right? So things are gonna happen a lot easier to it. I did like it as a beginner camera. There is some film in here, but honestly I don't think I'll ever really use it up, or I'll just kind of bring it to my go-to store and kind of just be like, hey guys, can you just develop whatever is in here? It's really not my favorite camera to use now anymore, especially because I have actual film cameras that are reloadable themselves, auto rewind, and have all these cool features on them. So for me, the camera that this simple use camera really doesn't do it. But if you're looking to kind of get into film photography and you don't really want to spend too much money, this is a good option. I think they do sell them around Urban Outfitters and other places now around Canada. When I got this back, I don't even know, 5 years ago, I actually had to wait for Lomography to ship this to me, and it took, I think, almost 6 months, because I don't know what was going on, but I think they're a European-based company, so it was hard for them to ship 2 cameras over with some additional film. Got one for me and one for my best friend as a gift that I literally gave to her in November when her birthday's in May, but that's okay. So yeah, they sell them all over Canada now, so it's pretty easy to get your hands on. And basically once you're done with this, you have to wind the film again. So don't just open the back, it'll expose and ruin all your film. You have to wind it and then take out the film canister cartridge or whatever you want to call it, and then replace it with a new one. And so therefore you don't need to buy this extra hard shell again. You only need to spend money on the film. And so a little bit more eco-friendly, something to have if you're okay, I don't really want to spend $14 every single time getting a new Fujifilm. So to start off with, there are 2 types of film cameras. So there are the simple single focus, I guess is what you call them, I'm not too sure, but basically this camera right here, they, you know, they all look different, so different ways to turn them on and off. But just a regular point and shoot has one focal point, that's it. This one is the Fujifilm Clear Shot Super. It's okay, not my favorite anymore. I find that, because I like to take a lot of selfies with my friends, so I find that this actually, no matter how long someone's arms are, unless you're I don't know, Shaq, and literally have 7-foot arms, you're gonna come out blurry in this. So it's really good for taking photos of other people this way, but if you flip it around and try to take a selfie of yourself with you and your friends, you're gonna be blurry. One thing I also don't like about this one is that, see, here we go again. There's a knob right here that switches from panorama to regular. So panorama, it would cut off from here to here. And so the developed film would have 2 black strips at the top and the bottom. It's the switch changes really easily between the two, and I'm not a big fan of that, because sometimes I just want to pull out the camera, take a cute picture, call it a day, whatever. Cannot for the life of me remember to check, and half the time like my photos turn out to be in panorama, which kind of sucks. It does have a self-timer mode. This one does too. Sorry, the lighting is a bit bad, but it has a self-timer mode, and the auto flash will go on as well. With this camera, there's also an auto rewind button here, so you load in your film. I'm not going to open it because it's already loaded in here. And then once you're done, once it reaches the end of the cartridge and the counter is right there, you just auto rewind it, and you'll be able to tell when you need to take it out because like the sound will be different. Battery wise, this thing operates on 2 AA batteries, which is not bad because a lot of other film cameras operate on batteries that are a little bit harder to find. Okay, next camera, these two. So these are basically like the zoom cameras, so they have different focal points and you can take pictures at different ranges, which is kind of like my go-to now. So these would probably be a little bit more on the expensive end as well because it's not just like a single focus. So 1050, I don't know if you guys can see that. This is my go-to for all my landscape photography. So basically, if you go on my Instagram stories and you take a look at all the film that I've taken and it's landscape, I've done it on this camera and this camera only. It has so many different functions. I actually really love this camera. Once I get, like, I feel like if I'm more invested into it and more like wanting to learn about film photography and stuff like that, I would definitely take the time to learn how to use this camera a lot more. It has self-timer, zoom, it has like all these different modes. I can't even tell you, there's probably like 24 different functions for like landscape, different lightings. There's actually different flash settings on this too. So like I can do self-timer with flash, I can do flash red eye reduction, I can do something where like it'll flash first, take the picture, and then flash again. I don't really know what that means, but I've used it once and it actually turned out pretty good. So yeah, I would say generally no complaints with this camera. This is definitely more like in what I would call as a beginner hobbyist film photographer. I would call this definitely like a more advanced film camera just because of all the different functions that you can have with this one. This one operates on, I don't know what battery actually. Can't even open it. Okay, I don't know what battery it operates on, but I'm pretty sure it's one of those ones that I had to go on Amazon to buy, like maybe a CR23A, something like that, but definitely not like your standard triple or double A. It has a panorama mode as well. The flash is auto. It has autofocus. So once again, cannot take selfies this way because the shutter will actually lock and will not let me take a picture at all. So this camera is relatively good if you want to make sure something's in focus. Unless you set it on self-timer, then it's kind of 50-50. But if you want to make sure that your pictures are in focus, this thing will 100% not let you take a photo unless there's an object in focus, especially if you're like coming in this way. There is no way, like the shutter will actually lock and you will not be able to take the photo. So this is why I really like this camera, and I just find it really does well with landscape photos. Nothing too far away and nothing too close up. So it's like the perfect for just like middle ground stuff, and that's why I love to use it for my travels. And then last but not least, we have the newest addition to my collection. Sorry if I'm moving, the sun is kind of setting weird. But anyways, this one is the Pentax Spo24ew. So I'm actually currently testing this out still. I bought this camera because most cameras, even the single focus point ones, their closest focal point is at 38 millimeters, which is, I don't know, I'm pretty sure 3 feet, which is like an arm's length away, but still turns out blurry, or in the case of the Samsung one, will not even let me take a picture. So I'm trying this one because the closest focal point is 24 millimeters. So that is a bit of a difference, and what I've noticed is it doesn't necessarily lock me out. I have to read the user manual one more time, but I think it should work better with selfies. So who knows, I'm 13 shots into, I think, a 36 roll. Hopefully I can get this tested before my birthday, so look out, friends. If you're hanging out with me, we will be taking pictures on this thing. And so yeah, I kind of can't wait to try it out. But once again, it has a lot of functions. There's also plus minus, once again, if you want to push the film. For those of you who are kind of beginner, probably don't get into like pushing film, but this one you can also push film too. So yeah, this one, let me think. I'm pretty sure it will have auto rewind and will load the film itself as well, because I don't see a rewind button here. The battery for this one is once again one of those like super complicated batteries. I don't really know what they're called, but definitely not the double or triple A's. Very easy to use. There's a self-timer mode, on and off. There, you can set the date here too, and then once again, like with these two like more complex cameras, I can halfway click through the shutter, like halfway press down on the shutter, and it will tell me like if it'll give me like a color or something to indicate if it's focused or not. It's just on this one I'm not too sure because there's actually like 3 different signals, I guess you could say, so I need to get to learn that. But on this one, it just like if it's red, no, and if it's green, great. So that's basically how you do it. So yeah, those are my cameras, and then we will talk a little bit about different types of film now. So, as important as your film camera is and the functionality of your film camera, it's also important to pick the right kind of film to use. And so, beginner film, you're gonna get like a typical Fujifilm roll. This is like the most typical one they sell. The Fujifilm roll, and it's going to be an ISO 400. Kind of looks like this. They all come in these little plastic things, but this is the actual thing you load into the camera. So standard film is just ISO 400. It's good for kind of just regular lighting, and those are what your like Fujifilm like disposable cameras are made out of, like the plastic ones where you have to like just like take them to the film shop and they just like rip apart the outside of it. So you get your ISO 400 in that. Very typical. They come in either 36 or 27. I should expand on that. Sorry. Like a set, like each roll is either 27 or 36 exposures, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I always buy the 36 because I'm just like, why not? So yeah, that's pretty much like beginner film. Now film kind of goes, I don't know how to like it's like it starts at 100, then it's like 200, 400, 800, so it like doubles each time, I guess you could say. That's how you rate the ISO of each film. And so it just basically indicates to you how much light the film is going to let in. And so for those of you who saw like my Whistler film, or the film that I use when I ski, I actually load my cameras with ISO 200 film. So this camera is actually currently loaded with ISO 200 film. And what that does is the sun while you're skiing, like you have all the sun coming in, and also the snow itself reflects a lot of light, and so your camera is actually getting in a lot of light, and so that's why I moved down to ISO 200 so that not as much light is captured in my film photos, and so it's not overexposed. So back on the topic of film, I also actually, you know what, one thing I have not tried to shoot with is ISO 800. So 800 is the next one up from 400, and that's best used like maybe if you're at a concert. And so 800 is more for like dark things where it would let in a lot more light because it's just so dark that you need as much light in as you can. I have never really been in a situation where like I'm not a big fan of like night photography, I guess you could say, in that sense. Usually like I'm just taking selfies with friends, or like we're taking close-up pictures, so that's okay because your focus point is like pretty close. Like I don't know, I'm like 2 feet away from this camera, so the flash is coming like right at me. It's not dissipating, I guess you could say. I did try to take some pictures in Singapore with flash that was more like landscape photography. It turned out so bad. I will show you guys why. And I think that's probably the best case scenario would be for me to like use like 800 or even like an even higher ISO film, because the focus point was way too far away and it was more like landscape photography at night. And so I think that would be the best case scenario, to use like ISO 800 film or higher, just so it can let in more light evenly. Evenly, because when you're kind of like taking a flash photo like of someone, like if my camera's right here, right, the flash is going to reflect on me and I'm the focal point, it's going to reflect on my face. But if you think about it, like if I'm just taking a picture of the mountains from here, the flash is not actually going to quote unquote reflect on the mountains because that's a little bit too far away. So in those situations, you would definitely want to give 800 a try. I also bought this Ektar 100. I have been waiting to use this, but I feel like it would have to be like on like a 4 or 5 day ski trip. like, because it's 100, I'm gonna have to use it for a specific occasion, right? That's the only like con about using different kinds of film, is like you kind of have to remember, I have to keep track of which film is in which camera, and so that I can bring it out to the appropriate occasion, because I'm not gonna take 200 to a low light setting. Doesn't make any sense. It's gonna ruin all my pictures, and my pictures are all going to be pretty much like underexposed. And I'm also not going to take like 800 to, you know, a place that's like super bright, because then my photos are going to be super overexposed, because there's a lot of light coming in and the film is actually letting way more light in than a standard like 400 if we were to compare it to. So it doesn't make any sense. That's pretty much all I wanted to say about the different types of film. There are different brands of film as well. So like your typical go-to, and like just to let everyone know, film is back in. So there's a big shortage of film like pretty much everywhere. The typical go-to is like Fujifilm. I always buy these like 3-packs, and so this is actually really great because it tells, like, this is the 400 package, and it tells you like it's basically good for pretty much everything, like just your basic I want to start out kind of thing. The 200 just says indoor and outdoor, but it definitely does not say low light or action or stuff like that. So yeah, I have 200 in Fujifilm as well. Like Fujifilm, I usually buy, like I said, the 36 exposure 3-pack. That's it. That's good enough for me. When I travel a lot, I have to restock on a lot of film really quickly, but right now it's going slowly, so it's not that bad. There's also black and white film. So black and white film also comes, I believe, in different ISO. Yeah, different ISO as well. So you can also do black and white photography. Black and white film sells out less frequently than color film, obviously. This is on the expensive end, but I decided to buy it for myself because I wanted to give it a try, and I feel like I've taken enough photos to kind of experiment with different kinds, like different types of film rolls. So it is the Portra 400. It is advertised as basically the world's finest grain at 400 speed, so at ISO 400 shooting speed. And so I want to give it a try. I've kind of read a few blogs where some people have said like you can see the difference in the quality. So I've actually loaded this clear shot with it, and so now I'm going to be very strict about how I use this photo. We're not taking random ass selfies anymore. I think this is the camera that I'm going to take to my birthday party, and we're going to use it like that. But anyways, so different brands, different types of things, but honestly, when you're starting out, you know, just go for the 3-pack. It's the most, I guess, like economic option, like wallet-wise, I guess you could say. Could buy them at Urban Outfitters. I think I always go online and try to find the cheapest place to buy them, because like I usually buy in bulk, meaning I will buy at least 2 or 3 packs of both ISO 400 and 200, and so I try to find the cheapest option. But if you're looking for something quick, like the best, like the fastest way to get it, like Urban Outfitters I know for sure sells it. Okay, so this is basically it for like the film camera vlog. I can't really think about anything else to tell you guys. I'm waiting to see how this turns out. If this turns out good, this might be my new go-to camera. But for now, when I travel, it's this one. I usually just ask random strangers to take a picture of me, if anything, and you know what? Some of them turn out great, some of them don't turn out great, but that's kind of like the beauty of film. If you guys have any questions about like how I shoot my photos, how I know like what film to use and that kind of stuff, you can feel free to ask in the comments. I will, like, if you want a more comprehensive video about a specific camera, a specific type of film, anything like more in detail, you can feel free to ask. I know I talked a lot in this video about pushing film. For beginners, I would not recommend that. It's just going to be a little bit confusing for you, and once you push, you cannot unpush, I guess you could say. So you're gonna have to like dedicate that entire roll to like pushed film, and you're also gonna have to let the people who develop your film know that you pushed it. Last thing, so my go-to place to develop film is Kerrisdale Cameras. They're like kind of like a local shop. I like supporting them, but like on top of that, aside from everyone just being super friendly and super nice, you can actually, so like for the, like if you ask them to just like develop a single roll, it comes with either digital copies or prints. So you can choose one or the other, and you can get both. It's just going to be at an additional cost. But the reason why I like using them is because I find that they develop my film photos really well, first of all. Second of all, I always choose like digital uploads, and they look like really nice. so like good job to whoever is developing them, because it actually takes a lot of effort. I've looked into developing my own film because of the crazy amount of film I go through, and I just don't know if I'd be able to do it as well as them, and I honestly wouldn't want to like fuck up like a really nice roll. So unless I was willing to like basically potentially sacrifice like 36 exposures, I'd probably just go back to carousel cameras for now. And you also need a darkroom to develop, and that is not something I have here. So yeah, back on track. On top of them kind of like giving you everything you need at a very like high quality, in my opinion, you also get your negatives back. That is one thing I love so much, is because I can take those negatives and get them developed again, or kind of, you know, like I can look at them myself. It's just going to be really small, but like that's why I like to keep my negatives, because it's like, what if I want to develop my photos again? I definitely recommend carousel cameras. They have tons of locations around the Lower Mainland now, and the people there are super friendly, and they're actually knowledgeable as well. So that is the other thing that I love about them. I'm just like raving on and on about them, and this post is not sponsored by carousel cameras. I'm just letting you guys know that they're just like, the people who work there are actually knowledgeable about cameras, film cameras, any questions that you have. And no hate on like London Drugs or like other places where you could just go and get your photos developed, but chances are the person like working behind the till is not necessarily going to know a lot, because they're there, you know, to print out photos or to just like do other things. But like carousel cameras is a specialized like camera store. But yeah, that's it for this video. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave any questions in the comments below. Thanks guys.